This video is on ATP synthesis and the ATP cycle and is part of the cells as the basis of life topic. Continuing our theme of looking at energy in cells, ATP is really the key molecule here when we're looking at storing and transferring of energy around the cell. So energy transformation occurs within cells, and often we're talking about a transformation from one form of energy to another, although a lot of our energy form is actually chemical energy. So in order to do cellular work, get things to happen in the cell, we use energy as the, ATP as the energy carrier. So what kind of work do cells do? So a lot of things in the cell require energy. A lot of endogonic reactions that require an energy input, obviously. So things really looking at a lot of synthesis reactions here. So in order to make DNA or RNA, protein synthesis, even some parts of cell signaling require an input of energy, and that comes from the energy released by breaking down ATP. Movement of cells, so for cells moving around, especially for amoeba or single-celled organisms, or changing its shape for multicellular organisms, or even moving things within cells like moving vesicles around the place, that requires ATP. Also a lot of things to do with the membrane, maintaining gradients across membranes or using active transport to take things into and out of cells. It requires energy in some cases. We talk about active transport later on within this topic. So the energy to do those things comes from ATP, and you can think of ATP as a little molecular battery. So ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. So it's an adenosine, just like the A in DNA, the A, T, C's and G's. The adenosine is that nitrogenous base with a ribose on it, and one phosphate would be very similar to what we have as our nucleotides, obviously, with the sugar phosphate. If you add a second and then a third phosphate to that, we get what we call ATP. So with the three phosphates on there, we have a very high energy bond between the second and third phosphate. And we can think of this molecule as a fully charged battery that can then be used to run different processes around the cell. When that energy is released by breaking that bond, the inorganic phosphate molecule comes off, and we're left with two phosphates, and it's called adenosine diphosphate. Now it's a depleted battery, but that energy has been released. And again, that's used to do cellular work. So in order to make ATP, we do the reverse of this process. So ATP is synthesized by combining ADP and inorganic phosphate. So our depleted battery, we need to put some energy in to make that bond happen. Putting that on there, now we have ATP, and that's ready to go. So in fact, each ATP molecule is used up over and over again, cycling between being ATP and ADP plus phosphate. The energy to go up in this direction from ADP and phosphate up to ATP comes from respiration, so energy in to make that happen, and then the energy out is used for cellular work. There are the two reactions for ATP production and consumption. So if we just looked at production, you actually make your body weight in ATP per day. So it's an amazing amount of this forward reaction that's happening every day in your cells. But equally, you use up your body weight in ATP each day with the reverse reaction. So you don't obviously put on weight from this, but that's just the sheer number of ATP molecules that are being used and consumed each day in your body is equal to your mass. So an amazing amount of energy being used. So these batteries are being charged and discharged all the time. That's covered in chapter 9 on page 78, and also in Mr. Lecornu's video there.